do.
Okay. Let's bring in our next guest. He is the Chief Lead Robot Inspector for FRC, also a mentor on Team 111 Wildstang, Al Skierkiewicz. Al, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
So I guess if you could describe your role as Chief LRI for us.
As Chief LRI, I'm primarily responsible to make sure that all robots at all events are inspected. And in order to do that, I help train all of the lead robot inspectors. During the competition season, I'm available via phone so that the lead robot inspectors at other events can call me for consultation, and I'll do between 5 and 10 of those calls every single week. And then I help write the robot rules section, and I also have some input on the Q&A.
Okay, so I guess how would you describe the role of a lead robot inspector at an event?
Well, the lead robot inspector is one of what I believe the 3 people that are responsible for the success of the event. The head ref handles everything that's game related on the field, and he makes sure that everything's happening there. The FTA makes sure that the whole event is running correctly, and the lead robot inspector takes care of everything in the pit. They're the ones that ensure that as many teams can play, do play, and in order to do that, I make sure that my lead robot inspectors understand that I want them to be a member of every team that's at their event. While they're acting as a member, that changes the way that they look at the team, and it makes them feel like they really need to help teams that are having a problem. It's really important that we get every robot out onto the field, because the good teams that are out there can't play by themselves. They need to have those other teams with them. And if a team comes and the robot's broken and they can't play, we are the ones that are responsible to help try and make sure that they get out there on time.
Absolutely. So this game being very, very unique, especially with respect to the robot rules, we see no more starting size. We see no more bumper rules. Lots of new things for this year. Can you tell us, how did that change the robot inspection process and the work that you had to do throughout the season?
Well, taking away the bumpers took away about 5 minutes out of every inspection, so that helped quite a bit, because we realized that with this particular game there was not going to be any interaction between robots, even on the same alliance. However, there always is the transport configuration this year, and the reason that we have that is, and a lot of people do not understand this, this event is one of those venues where the main doors coming into the venue are only 32 inches wide. And because of that, with the crash bar and the door frame, the robot has to be under 28 inches, otherwise we can't get it in the door. So the transport configuration, having that one dimension of 28 inches, has to be there every year in order that we can have these events. And it's especially important for those areas that are certainly with the districts. So Michigan, certainly in Minnesota, out in Pacific Northwest. Anybody that has a district event that's at a high school like this is going to be faced with a small door.
So every robot inspector I feel like that I talk to has some horror story, right? Robots that show up at an event that weigh 150 pounds, or teams that just show up with their kit that didn't understand they were actually supposed to build a robot before they got to the event. The stories always seem to end with some kind of triumph for the team, right? We got them onto the field and they played. Or this team came in at 150 pounds and we got their weight down and they wound up getting picked, right? I guess, what are some of your favorite horror stories and I guess triumph stories, successes from your time as an inspector and a lead robot inspector?
Well, people ask me this all the time. So I have a lot every single year. So I usually have to tell people, kind of limit it. Tell me that you want to know how about the heaviest robot ever. Tell me what's the worst robot this year. So if I had to go and just pick 2 out of everybody that I've ever done, the most challenging was the 11-14-900 at the championship this year, because they were such a unique design with the potential for some damaging impact on the field. It took a long time to really evaluate their design and make sure that it was going to pass all of the robot rules and still be safe. So it was a challenge because teams always will challenge us. Everything that we think we can think of during the game design or rule writing, teams will always come up with something different, and this was one of those different things. So I spent personally about 4 hours with the teams working on prototyping, taking a look at what the device actually did, taking a look at the safety problems that might occur. And the one last thing that I had a problem with is if two of them fired but the third one did not, that meant that we had a live round on the field, and we couldn't let students go out onto the field with that in place. So the last rule that we had on the design was a mentor must be the first one to go on the field. In that respect, make sure that everything is reduced to zero power level, and then the students can come out and clear the field. I mean, we could not even allow anybody out there. The second thing we had to do was make sure that nothing left the field, because I had to be concerned for all the volunteers and for the refs. And I have to give it to the design team for 11, 14, and 900. Those guys had pretty much anticipated every single problem that I could foresee, and they had a solution for it. So working with them was one of the best experiences. Trying to get through the inspection process was probably one of the worst experiences. And as it was, I think the hardest thing for them was getting into the transport configuration.
And it was tough not seeing that take the field after all the work that had gone into it.
And I felt really bad. I mean, the kids had put a lot of work. 900 spent an inordinate amount of time trying to make it happen. One of the other issues that had ever happened to me actually was with Andy Baker acting as an inspector for my school. So we were at the Midwest Regional a couple of years ago, and Andy was acting as an inspector, and he came over to me and he said, you know, I just inspected a team, and I walked away and I gave them a sticker, and I just realized they have an illegal motor on their robot. And this is their third event of the season. They've competed twice before with that motor on. What are we going to do? Well, we have to go tell the team that they've got an illegal motor on, and that falls on the lead robot inspector to deliver that bad news. And Andy said, I was the one that was at fault. I have to go over there with you. So the two of us walked over, and I said, we've got some bad news. This motor on your arm is an illegal motor, and you can't use it. But we think that you have a variety of other motors, and we'll do everything we can to find you one of those motors with one of the teams here at the Midwest Regional, and we'll assist you to get that motor on the robot so that you guys can play. Because the arm in that particular season was a big requirement of their robot. They felt really bad. I mean, we gathered the team around, we tried to help them, and they said, no, we fully understand, we'll come up with a solution. And Andy goes, just tell me, if there's a motor that I have, I'll let you guys have it. So we talked it over, we looked at their design, came up with an option for a motor which required them to have to redesign the joint on their arm. Well, it turns out that in the two previous events that they had been to, that joint had kept on failing because of the way the motor was mounted. So by having to change the motor, that forced them to change the design on the joint, and that joint never failed for the rest of the season. So wow. It was kind of an interesting thing, but we have stories like that almost every year.
Well, I think that's one of the most exciting parts about, for a lot of the veteran people within FIRST, when you go through the inspection process, you're always kind of on your toes. Did we do it all right? Did we dot all the I's and cross all of our T's? And but even no matter how nervous you are, you always know that the inspectors have your back, and it's really fun to know that there is help there when you need it.
All right, we're getting the signal that they're ready for us down on the field. Semifinal number 5. Let's throw it down to Tyler and Dan.